Is Bandon Preserve the best par three in the world?
It's pretty much perfect in every way. I don't know that you can get a better par three short course experience. There are really good par three experiences. Um, this to me would have to be number one.
Kaiser had a certain concern about the idea that people would view it as a mere pitch and putt that really wasn't worthy of the resort. And then when he brought his friends out late in construction, the whole conversation changed. And it was more about, okay, well, wow, how are we going to regulate the volume of play?
Knowing that my crew and myself maintain the greens on the best par three in the world makes me extremely happy and very confident in my crew. It just makes me happy. I don't know any other way to really put that. I'm really happy and I'm very glad to be working on this golf course.
Bandon Preserve was kind of at the transition point of everybody realizing, no, golf's about fun. And how can we get the most out of the grounds? The tour mentality and the challenge be damned. How can we make sure we get the variety and the fun out of whatever we've got to work with?
Check this out. We're sort of at like the melting point of the golf course with four holes happening right here. This place just screams fun.
You're pretty much you. You almost feel like, you're almost like home when you get here. You're very relaxed. There's no stress. It usually gives me time for one cup of coffee on the way down here because it's like a little over 25 minutes or right around 25 minutes. I listen to George Nori Coast to Coast pretty much 99% of the time. There's a news station I listen to, KWRO out of Reno, Nevada that I listen to, and one out of Boise, Idaho that I listen to. And that's it. That's all I have time for. I actually started on Bandon Trails, so I had a lot of experience. I was taught by some very good superintendents. Those greens over there are, of course, they're slowly converting to POA, but they're actually seeded with fescue, and so was the preserve back, when it was originated and constructed. I noticed I could kind of see kind of a routine when I was on trails for so long, and I learned an immense amount how to, aerify and when to fertilize, and of course, talking to the superintendents on Bandon Dunes and Pacific Dunes, and you can kind of almost get like a pattern, kind of a routine going. When I get to work, when I actually go out on the course in the morning, it's just like refreshing. Get the crew out the door going, and then you go out on the course. It's just refreshing. I don't know any way to put it. You forget about like almost everything. You just concentrate on the golf course. And
oh, he came to play.
the preserve actually has a very large amount of POA. In fact, I believe it's got more POA in all its greens, almost completely covered. We had to reseed it probably 4 years ago, and when they reseeded, we used POA seed. So the POA is like a totally different bird than the fescue is on the other courses.
So we call the opening of the golf course and finish the panhandle.
on, half left.
There was a little bit of work on too to make sure that we could dramatize that bunker. You know, Tony's bunker there in front of the green, sort of a lion's mouth, kind of just waiting for you, right? Not lion's mouth in regards to, you know, architecture history, but you know, it's just waiting. It's waiting to eat balls up. You know, 3 and 11, they sort of almost get shortchanged by the nature of 3 being a subtle golf hole, which is a great way to transition out there and then almost beat you over the head.
That's a sneaky bunker. It's so tiny. Just the fringe bleeds into it.
Between 4 and 7, it's about 27,000 square feet. So it's definitely more than half an acre. You know, it's relatively forgiving to a guy who ends up leaking the ball off to the right. But of course, like you said, you've always got the ability to accidentally lay something out there right and be hanging out with another group that's way further ahead on the golf course than you do.
That is such a good pin. You have to find a way to hit a fade into it with a 100-yard shot.
I mean, 5 jumps out right away because you get up there, that view, the tee. We all putted it off 5 on this trip because of the way where the tee box was, and we could, and we, you know, it actually almost didn't matter how hard you hit it or where you hit it. It kind of all funneled in. All 4 of us were like in a row, and we had so much fun watching the ball just roll down there, disappear, then come back, and then go onto the green, and then you also love hitting little punches and shots. And so 5 is really cool.
I just don't want to leave this hole. It's so pretty out here. This corner is incredible.
So as you're probably aware, that green wasn't even part of the initial routing. It was a 12-hole course. And then when all the shore pine were removed, then it opened up a view down to what were essentially the platform that the green now sits on. You know, Bill sort of just found it out of the blue once things opened up.
Yeah. I never do it. Keep your weight on your front foot. Use your abs. You know, you got a 6-pack. Money. Nice shot. Check this out. All the undulation coming over here. Long left runoffs. Nice little ocean views.
Punch bowl green on 8, you know, there was some strategic interest that had to be placed out there to say, hey, you know, the pin's not going to be back right every day in the tiny, severe punch bowl, but even if it's not, you're still going to enjoy yourself. And there was a big conversation, mostly between Bill and Mike Kaiser about, well, how do we make sure that a person who comes out and plays 8 and has heard about it and sees the pins on the left really has a rewarding experience. It doesn't go away feeling shortchanged.
I think that's the best pin you could have on this green. It's just tucked right, like over that dune.
8 is fantastic. Talk about quirky. There's something about 8 and the shortness of it it's super fun.
I mean, 9, you feel like when you're standing on that tee, like you got a pretty good surface to work with despite the wind conditions. But it did not feel that way at all when we got started working on there. There was a lot of support that we had to create. The front of the green, really to make sure that we had playability. There's a lot of definition in that run up and into the green, so that it's still playable, but it rewards, a good shot. And then, of course, anything that we could do along the right to make sure that you weren't going to go automatically into the cut if you hit a cut was so important to just trying to get playability.
Just walking off 9, that's a perfect example of why distance control is important. 2-yard shy and it spins off the green. So 10 is sort of like a mini Alps. This is massive bunker right in front of the green. You can barely see the tip of the flag.
The big thing to me about that green was to make sure that on 10, you had the ability to land a ball short and potentially still get it on. But also then to say, okay, you can get the ball on the screen, but the question is going to be, did you really figure out sort of what quadrant that you want to be on it?
Eleven's a fantastic golf hole, and really is the one that, especially, I love where it is in the routing. It's 11. You're looking down over there. I don't know. I have a lot of respect for 11.
Lou's stymied by the tree and he's doing some soul searching over here by the bird box, trying to figure out whether he goes left or right of this tree.
That tree to the left of 11 is fantastic, and the sun usually is going down when you're playing out there, and it casts those really cool shadows. And looking back from behind the 11th green is an incredible view.
He's actually using the driver to measure his relief. Like, when was the last time you saw somebody bust out the driver to measure 2 club lengths? That's unbelievable.
.12 is a really memorable hole from the standpoint that we brought in a lot of sands to make sure that the drama and interest around that green were heightened as much as possible. Yeah, it's a challenge to make sure that you can try and reach any of those pins in the middle and right.
That's the ball mark right there.
The evidence.
The evidence, 10 feet.
.13 is a perfect sanctuary for Silvery Celia. And the reality was that was a place where we had really big numbers of the plant. And so the intention was to pull back from there, have a shorter hole. In fact, you saw that picture of Ben holding flags. We're looking at that green and trying to figure out what's this going to be if we can't put it in some of the more obvious places. And so then we worked it off of the dunes coming in from the left and built that platform.
cradle is really cool. The cradle is an incredible experience, but you know, you're not looking out to the coast. You're not, you know, the elevation. You don't have any of the elevation changes. You don't have the shot variety. You don't have, you know, as many holes. I mean, you know, if you really start going match play, the cradle can't compete with the preserve. You know, and that's, and I love the cradle.
The thing that makes Bandon Preserve as much fun as it is, and the reason why people are constantly saying that's the most fun I've ever had playing golf, I like to compare it with fly fishing. You know, you cast upstream and you let that fly drift down to the fish, and you're trying to fool them. Well, you know, in good, fast and firm conditions, like you see at Bandon Dunes Resort, you have the opportunity to aim to one spot with the goal of ending up in their spot.